Well, everyone, it's Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And yet again, back-to-back weeks, I have my brother Ethan here to talk some John Carpenter because I came up with a new segment for this show, What If? And we're going to be talking about a fantasy scenario film that we would love to see happen. And how did this come about? I was sitting and watching Ghosts of Mars, and for my John Carpenter series on Welcome to the Wasteland, and this film is about these infected zombie like crazed people on Mars attacking this small crew of cops who are going in to do a prison transfer. And I literally picked up my phone, texted Ethan, what if ... John Carpenter directed Resident Evil? Because that's what I wanted to see after watching Ghosts of Mars. So, what we're going to do is we're going to describe our fantasy version of Resident Evil. We're going to pretend Resident Evil was a thing in the early 80s, and John Carpenter is directing it. So, Ethan, why did you agree to this idea of John Carpenter directing Resident Evil?
Well, he's one of my favorite directors. First off, he made my favorite horror movie of all time. If you've watched any of these videos, you already know that. It's Halloween. And one of my favorite video game franchises / movies. It's Resident Evil. And if anybody can make a good version of it, he can. But this one's going to be as close as humanly possible as you can get to the video game.
Yes.
Because it's our fantasy. So we get to pick. There's no random ass character.
Nope.
There's no...
We're sticking to the 4 original characters from the original first Resident Evil game. It is going to be a true adaptation. It's going to be prime Carpenter. This is early 80s. So he has Halloween, The Fog, The Thing, Escape from New York under his belt, making this movie. And like Ethan said, this is a pure, true adaptation to, this isn't crazy over-the-top action. People have no ammo. And it is lurking through this compound. And it's creepy. It's disturbing. And one of the big things why I really thought that Carpenter would great is his knack for that voyeuristic camera work and just creeping through this place in the dark.
Yeah, because that's what you have to do in that game. You have to creep because his camera angles are horrible.
Yeah, John Carpenter's will be better. But the thing is, still, it's going to be us creeping around, and I imagine there be some cool first-person kind of work with the camera and stuff like that, going through these dark hallways. I saw, was it Welcome to Raccoon City was the most recent adaptation that they did, where they basically combined the first 2 games, which they were trying to be more true to the games, but still didn't make a great
Yeah, I didn't even watch that one yet.
Well, because I know one of the first big shots from the actual game is them turning a corner and seeing somebody kneeling down or whatever, and that was ripped right out of the game. We want that. Yes. We want actual shots straight from the game. And imagining what are some of the things that you think should really stick out with this adaptation?
Well, for one, just a frightening factor that you have these things you don't know what the hell they are because it just out of nowhere because they don't really know what they're going in there for to start off with. And you don't go in there with a whole cache of weapons and ammo. You have your handgun,
got
maybe
5 bullets,
your side piece, maybe, and a knife. That's what made those games so horrifying because you don't know when you're gonna run out of ammo, and you have to slash your way out or run like hell. And at least in the was it like late 90s, really early 2000s when they did that one with Mila Jovovich, everybody had a shitload of ammo. It doesn't make, like, when you have an army of zombies and everybody has a crap load of ammunition, it doesn't make it that scary. It's not that horrifying when you're like, yeah, I could shoot my way out of this, no problem. And that's what made the original game so intriguing and horrifying, is you don't know if you're gonna die because you don't have a lot of ammo, and you gotta really work for it. You have to really work for the herbs that help you heal and whatnot, and difficulty level is not really low like some of the newer games and like how it looks like in the movies. So that's definitely one thing where it's going to be show the struggle, bring it back to bring a survival horror game into film, and transitioning it that way would be awesome to see.
Well, I think that it would definitely be drawing upon his work in The Thing. Because it really is that kind of idea. You're in this closed off, like, compound, and you have no idea what the hell this is. And John Carpenter is one of the kings of paranoia-driven filmmaking. And I imagine, like, we want that in this. Because the thing is, it's like, who do we trust? What's around the corner? We have no idea. And those kinds of things. And one of the things that I really want to see out of this is all these grotesque creatures and stuff like that. They have Resident Evil. All practical effects. I want this poor special effects person checking into the hospital at the end of the movie. Just like he did at the end of The Thing. Because, like, all of it is this disgusting, like, tangible kind of thing. And, like, people in suits and, like, puppet kind of things and stuff like that.
Well, I think that would also help make it more believable that it's horrifying, because most of the actors are looking at a green ball, are they not?
Correct.
Yeah.
When you do a lot of CGI work and stuff like that,
yeah,
if you look at Phantom Menace, poor Ewan McGregor was talking to a tennis ball when he's talking to Jar Jar Binks. But, like, the idea of, like, actually having it feel... Because here's the thing. John Carpenter, up until probably, like, the mid-90s, didn't really use a ton of, like, CGI and stuff like that. Like, it was all practical, and you could feel the sets and everything, and that's what we want out of this. We want us to feel this mansion, like, really great production design, and have these creatures feel really there and intimidating and scary, because that would scare me. And using the darkness and the lighting and all those kinds of things. Now, you mentioned a bit of campiness.
Well, yeah.
Which...
Because, let's be real here. If you've played the original games, you know that there's some really corny lines. It's a monster. Ouch. Like, really bad lines and really bad voice acting. It's what it is. Voice acting then wasn't like it was now. So we need a little bit of the corny campiness, and what better decade to do that in than the 1980s.
Yep. They should have totally got, like, Mark Hamill to voice act for, like, Resident Evil.
That would have been...
I remember he voice acted for Wolverine in an X-Men game. I'm like, what?
He does everything.
Yep. But the thing is, it's like... And John Carpenter can deliver that campy and weird... Like, it'd be cool... Like, this is going to have a cult horror movie kind of feel to it, because it's John Carpenter, so it should. And, God, what the score he would come up with for this would be great.
At least one of the things of the first several, just all the ones with Mila Jovovich, Alice's character. The music and the score was really good. They picked a lot of really good, like, nu metal artists that were in parts of, like, the score and in parts of the movie. And I don't know if this is 100% true, but Marilyn Manson doing a lot of the first movie. But either way, like that whole thing throughout, like their music was really good. But I feel like just the way he narrates a movie with his scores, like you can really feel the horror that you're supposed to feel while you're either playing or watching a Resident Evil movie.
Well, and I feel like we could go either two ways. It could be like more that classic John Carpenter type score, and with like Halloween and stuff like that. Or it could be like late 90s John Carpenter where there's a lot more like heavy metal guitar and stuff like that. Now, casting. We got 4 big characters here, and we're shooting here for like early 80s. So, who we have as Redfield here?
All right. So, the actor that we picked to play Chris Redfield, the consistent hero throughout Resident Evil, is the true hero. He's a hero in everything. He saves everyone and everything. Mr. Tom Cruise.
He even saved Hollywood last year.
So,
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. This is early 80s. He's young Tom Cruise. He's gonna be this, like, big leading man type figure. Like, just imagining, like, Top Gun Tom Cruise, like, coming in and leading this team. And even, like,
I know it didn't come out for a while.
Yeah.
But, like, just his presence in, like, Mission Impossible, if, like, you put those two, like, Maverick and Ethan Hunt together is what you would get, and that's basically what Chris Redfield is.
Yeah, and Tom Cruise, big name to throw out there. Now, the next two, we have some Carpenter alum, which we figured would fit well, so who's going to be Valentine?
Alright, so we picked the Scream Queen herself, Jamie Lee Curtis, to play Jill Valentine.
Absolutely. It would make a lot of sense. She did Halloween. She did The Fog. Now she's coming in doing Resident Evil for John Carpenter.
Except there's not going to be a whole lot of her screaming, though. Like, it's not going to be too much because she's been in roles where she's a complete badass. Mm-hmm. And that's really what, since this is our fantasy,
yep,
she's going to be that. She's going to be the kick-ass heroine that you see in several movies following Halloween, and even the newer Halloweens where she's not afraid of shit and she's ready to fuck everything up.
Mess people up.
That's what we're looking at for Jill Valentine. So,
and we got an actor coming back and playing a character named Burton.
Barry, where's Barry? So, Barry Burton, if you've played the game, isn't in, like, he gets lost because that's what happens. And who better to make that cameo as Barry Burton than the one and only Mr. Kirk Douglas?
Kurt Russell.
Because he's a little too old to be Barry Burton. Yes, Kurt Russell. Is what I meant.
Yes. Because, like, I feel like if this was this era of John Carpenter and Kurt Russell wasn't in the movie, it would be for, like, a really... like a big reason, but like you need to have Kurt Russell in a John Carpenter movie around this time would be perfect. So he might not be like the main character here, but he's still gonna show up and we're gonna love every second he's on screen. And then we have Wesker. Who are we gonna be having?
All right. So for Albert Wesker, we have the well-spoken, incredibly confident, snarky, badass and quite slimy human being, and who could play that better than anybody from around the 80s is Jeremy Irons.
Absolutely, and we're going to be really big on that casting too. Got to have that like weight of like a like trained actor, like coming in and playing that role would be really cool. And so, like, we figured out a pretty cool cast here. And The only sad thing is, at the end of this video, this movie's never going to happen. And then we just built up all of this.
Or we just make a, you know... We're obviously not going to be able to have the actors, but maybe we make a GoFundMe for it.
We're going to deep fake the hell out of this whole entire thing.
Do it.
And just make an adaptation. But I guess, Ethan, are there any other thoughts that you want to throw out there for our John Carpenter's Resident Evil?
I don't really know. I think we, covered the bases that we needed, that we were seriously missing, and all the other adaptations other than the CGI ones, which are badass.
Yep. And this is a cool movie. And a lot of franchise potential, because how many Resident Evil movies video games have there been? Because, the second game is just the same time as the first game, but a different place, right?
I think it is.
Because it's the police station and stuff.
It's in Raccoon City, not the outskirts of it.
Yeah. I think I recall watching that, because running around the dilapidated, because that would even be perfect for John Carpenter too, because then it's just Assault on Precinct 13.
Such a good movie.
Except with freaking whatever the hell these things are in this
Lickers.
Game. Well, because the thing is, they're not zombie, they're just these strange, demented...
Well, you got the dogs, you got the lickers, and you have...
They got everything.
It's...
Anything and everything, all of the time.
I don't think they're technically zombies, but...
They're just Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So, that's what makes Resident Evil pretty cool. So... You're welcome, because now you're just going to be thinking about this really cool movie, and we're never going to get it, but it was fun coming up with it. So, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on and coming up with John Carpenter's Resident Evil.
Thanks for having me on.
Would you like to shamelessly plug anything before we wrap up?
Dante Rowe Cosplay. Instagram.
Go check it out. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.